Hello, my name is Katie Jenkins. I'm Marketing Director at KAM Media, and welcome to the 100-day brand marketing PR plan for pubs, restaurants, coffee shops, and a lot more. Very excited to be involved with this with all of these wonderful people on the screen, and get ready for some absolutely fantastic information, advice and insight as you either read through the playbook or listen to these video series. So I am from KAM Media. If you don't know who we are a boutique research agency and consultancy. We work predominantly within the hospitality industry and also within retail as well, helping people better understand their customers, their staff, and how to make fact-based, intelligent decisions to improve, drive, and grow their business going forward. So I am lucky enough to have the first section of the playbook, as it should be, of course, entitled Start with the Customer. This section is written by KAM Media and also Datahawks. I'll explain as we go through, but Victoria Searle at Datahawks has done a separate video for her slides in this section, so make sure you check that out and watch it in conjunction with this as well. So here we go, start with the customer. And firstly, what is customer data collection and analysis? Fairly straightforward. Your customer data is all of the personal, behavioral and demographic information which you either already know about your customers and have access to, or you may already have access to it but not really be using it, or it might be information about your customers that you really should know and that you don't yet. So we're going to have a look at some ways that you can access that and interpret it. And hopefully I'm going to explain how collecting and analysing this data, this knowledge, will really give you the essential insights to make informed, intelligent decisions about your business, and not necessarily build your marketing brand plan for relaunch. Hopefully it won't be based on guesswork, it will be based on fact and relevant information. So again, before you get carried away with your marketing plan, stop right there. I want you to ask yourself these questions. Might be useful to have the actual slides or book printed out with you while you're going through this. But here's a list of 10 questions. There could be a million of these, but this is to help guide you the kind of things you absolutely 100% need to know about your customers before you take a step further in thinking about your marketing strategy, plans, tactics that all of the other videos are going to talk you through. First of all, you need this essential knowledge about your customers in order to do the rest of this plan justice. So take a look at this grid. Do you absolutely 100% know these answers to these questions? I put pre-lockdown, who were they? Who were your customers? And post-lockdown, have a think about how things may have changed, and some of the information I'm going to go through with you will hopefully help that as well. And just wanted to highlight here 3 reasons why getting your customer data and insight in check is absolutely critical, particularly now. So even if you think you knew your customers before lockdowns, things will have changed, even if it's short-term, medium-term, whatever you want to call it. You know, there's nothing like a global pandemic and 8 to 12 weeks stuck in your home to change how people think, to change their priorities, to change what they're worrying about, what's important to them, how much money they have to spend and how they're going to spend it. So you need to get to know them again. You need to reignite your relationship. Things have changed. My second point here is it's not just your customers that may have changed. The hospitality landscape, without a shadow of a doubt, will have changed. Some venues may not reopen. Some businesses have completely changed how they're going to function, what they're going to offer. Certainly what they look like will change, again, at least in the medium term. So you need to think of that. You may be used to basing your decisions on past experience. Things have changed now. Not only will the customers have changed short to medium term, but literally your competitive set, your landscape that you are doing business in will have changed as well. So just stop and have a think about that, and I'll talk you through that in a minute. And finally, just another reason why getting this customer information, customer knowledge is absolutely critical right now. Mistakes can be incredibly expensive. If you make those decisions about your future right now based on the facts, with proven quality data and insights, plus some of your knowledge, plus some of your, entrepreneurial spirit and past experience, then you're minimizing that risk and potentially saving huge costs on making the wrong decisions. And at this time, not many of us have that money to spare. So I want to start with just introducing you to some of the macro trends that we've seen at KAM. We track macro trends about UK consumers and keep an eye on the trends globally as well. These macro trends, although not your specific customers necessarily, will be impacting what they're seeing, thinking, etc. So bear some of this in mind as you're writing your plan going forward. So, since lockdown, some of your customers have been tied to their house. Many of them have been experiencing stressful, some of them heartbreaking situations. So let's have a look at how some of these things might be playing out for them. Number one, just something to remember: money is tight or tighter. 4 in 10 people, UK adults, have already lost income due to the lockdown. Many are worried about their long-term financial implications. So even if they don't literally have less money at the moment, they are conscious that they may have, that the economy is less stable, etc., and prices may well rise. The implications for you, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all about cheapest price, promotions, etc. What it means is people will just be reevaluating how and where they spend their money. They will be looking for perceived value. Often what happens is people will spend money on what they perceive to be incredibly important and save money on the sort of things that are less important to them. So just bear that in mind when we think about how we communicate the experience, the value of the experience and the food you're serving to your customers. Obviously safety first. 71% of Brits say they're going to be nervous about leaving their homes when lockdown measures lift. So even though we are dying to be free again, so to speak, many people are nervous about going back out into that big wide world. Life has slowed down a bit for many. They've kept themselves safe. And now what? That isn't going to all suddenly go away. They'll need empathy from you. They'll need strong reassurance that they're entering a safe environment, and then also need temptation in order to get out there, which brings me on to the next sort of macro trend, if you like, the hyperconnected. So many people have spent so much time online over the last 8+ weeks, from 5-year-olds who are now Zooming their friends and doing schoolwork, hours a day online, through to 60, 70-year-olds who would never have ordered their online shopping, via online, and now are. Lots of people have accessed new things, have downloaded new apps, and those apps are now on phones and much more likely to be used. So just have a think about how you can extend your customer experience, your customer reach online. A couple of photos stuck up on Instagram probably isn't going to cut it anymore if you really want to win with the new customer base. A couple more macro trends, very, very important to, even if it doesn't directly affect you, just keep in the back of your head while you're working through this marketing playbook. Number 4, working from home. Again, huge proportion of the population have spent the last few months working from home. It was only 5% in November 2019 who mainly work from home. This isn't likely to totally disappear when lockdown measures change, even when the risk of COVID-19 really diminishes. Twitter, various companies have said this has worked for us, this working from home. So we will continue to do that. Many people are enjoying working from home, so potentially we'll look to do that as well. So expect a huge portion of people to continue working from home, or at least be working from home more often. There are loads of implications for that for hospitality. It will have a negative impact on various locations, potentially train stations, potentially inner city. If you're surrounded by offices, things may change from a footfall perspective. It also has implications for neighborhood outlets as well. So how can they work at capturing the working from home trade, nipping out for lunch, people don't work from home all day. They like to work for a couple of hours from a coffee shop. How's your Wi-Fi? How are your PowerPoints? Do you have a quiet area to attract these new workers, because they can come at very quiet times of day? You know, think of what that implication might have for you and your different sites. And never forget, so this has been talked about a lot, how post-pandemic consumers say they will remember what brands have done during lockdown. So some brands have been very negatively affected by some decisions and communications they put out, and others, the absolute opposite, have done very well. 1 in 3 customers say, or consumers say, the way a company responded to this crisis will impact their likelihood of buying in the future. So just be very mindful. What you are doing now is being watched. Consumers are very sensitive. They're also very open to switching brands. We've seen that in retail a lot, because their needs have changed slightly. So now is the time to cement your ethos with your customers and talk their language. These trends, these macro trends, obviously will change over time. I think, you know, things are changing fast at the moment. I've put in there some good sources to watch and keep up to date with some of the macro trends. There's a KAM media report in there. There's just some regular things that you can sign up to, which will be pushed to your inbox, just so you can generally skim read, whatever, keep abreast of some of these macro trends. They will be affecting the world that your customers are living in. What about hospitality trends specifically then? Let's have a look at number 1. I am nervous. There's no getting away from that. The number 1 reason customers say they might eat and drink out less post-lockdown is they are worried for their health. Now, hospitality is going to need to be incredibly proactive in making customers feel safe. Operationally, you know, the reality is you will have guidelines to follow, and you will have to make sure you're hygienic and safe. You also need to be thinking about that customer perception. So number 2, how am I making people feel safe? Rather than just making a few changes, you need to communicate that to your customers as well. So top 5 must-have safety measures which customers want to see. Number 1, more regular cleaning. 2, hand wash and sanitizer stations. 3, limit capacity, communications of safety measures, and space seating as well. So these are the things that customers are telling us at KAM that will make them feel safe. Make them feel safe at the moment for now. So communication, that perception of safety is going to be absolutely critical on while you're thinking about this plan for relaunch as well. Eat in or eat out. 39% of UK adults think they will eat out less after lockdown measures have been lifted. Again, a lot of that, number 1 reason is they're worried about their safety. So we need to work as an industry to make them feel safe again, but also to entice them out. Customers are going to need that extra nudge, not only to choose you as a company and as a brand, but to eat and drink out in the first place. For many of them, there's been a big focus on increasing cooking, baking, etc. from home. So we need to resell really that whole concept of eating and drinking out, and why people should do it, why people enjoyed it in the first place, why people spent money on it in the first place. Number 4, this links to the previous one, I choose delivery. So UK online food delivery segment is up 9.8% year on year. And delivery has become a normal part of many consumers' lives. Again, different age ranges as well are buying into it, so to speak. A significant number have downloaded new delivery apps, which they didn't have before, meaning they are just more likely to use them. And also there's new businesses, new industries that have started food and drink delivery. You know, retailers, independent small convenience stores are now delivering, you know, high tea and various platters, and really sort of starting to tap into that, what would traditionally be hospitality's domain. So bear that in mind. What does that mean for your business? Are you going to start embracing delivery as a business, or do you need to defend yourself against this new way of dining? Number 5, a new landscape. And I've mentioned this before. Hospitality landscape itself will change. 66% of operators say their business is at serious risk if lockdown measures continue beyond June. This may sadly mean that some venues are no longer there. It certainly will mean they change how they look, potentially change their customer journey, their customer offer, their services. This will probably differ greatly by location. Will people prefer to dine in rural locations rather than busy town centres? Car parks may become, places with car parks may be more attractive, as people don't want to avoid public transport. The messages that you used to win your customers before simply may no longer work, as the hospitality landscape has changed really so dramatically. So again, things to bear in mind as you're working through this playbook. Good sources for hospitality trends: KAM Media newsletter. Who would be without it? The CGA newsletter, and also following both of these people actually on Twitter, just for the latest up-to-date hospitality trends that you really, really need to be aware of, and just think each time, what does that mean for me? What could that mean for my business? And again, KAM's here to support you on that, should you need it. Now let's have a look at your business specifically and your customers. So that was kind of macro trends there that for you to be aware of. Now there are loads of ways that you will already have data on your customers, or be able to get data on your customers. Your CRM tool will contain lots of this, and you may already be mining it. You may have Wi-Fi data, and Wireless Social have done a great section in this playbook that will help you understand how to use that. Same with reservations data. We've got Bums and Seats doing a great section in the playbook. Reviews, feedback, Feed It Back are doing a great section, a video that you must watch to understand how to really maximize that information and that tool as well. And all of these different data sources that you might have that you might not really already been using, or not quite understand how you should be using, analyzing that data. So Vixer at Datahawks has done a section within this section in the playbook, and a video as well, which just stop and watch in conjunction with this to really understand how you can join all the dots between all of this data that you have access to. It doesn't need to be intimidating. How you can access it, how you can action it, and she talks through how you can start to monetize that as well. Absolutely critical part of understanding your customers as well. Obviously, KAM does customer research, which is slightly different, although often generates a hell of a lot of data as well, depending on what you're doing. So all these things work in conjunction with each other to really help you understand your customer. And this is a great quote. So the data is really good for discovery and validation, but there is a bit in the middle where you have to go and find the human, and that's where I think KAM and the research side comes into it as well. So the data can give you the what and the who, and the research that we do gives you the why and the deeper depth into that as well. Combine them both together, and as I put on there, you're absolutely unstoppable. Let's have a quick look at the customer research methods then. Some of this you can't necessarily do right now, but just so that you can keep it in your mind. There are, and I'll go into some things which you can be doing right now as well. So when you need to delve a little deeper, beyond the data, if you like, here's 4 common research methods which you may or may not have used or seen done. So the most common is probably surveys or questionnaires. This is often a short series of quick to answer questions. They can be open or closed-ended questions. That means you're giving them an option of answers. These can be done online, by telephone, or indeed face-to-face. So they're easy, they're cheap to conduct, and you get a lot of data quickly, and it's pretty straightforward then to analyze as well. So they're great when you want lots of feedback on topics that you're already aware of, if you like. So you want responses and opinions and attitudes towards. And the great thing is, if you get that big volume of feedback, you can also start slicing and dicing it by customer type, and using it for part of your segmentation, which will come later on in the playbook. Interviews, so this is the most in-depth. This allows you to really get to the nuts and bolts, I guess, of various issues, and sometimes it brings up new issues, opportunities, concerns that you may not have even been aware of. So these are generally one-to-one, in-depth, normally face-to-face, although you can do them via telephone and Zoom now if need be. You also obviously get to see the person, so you can read the non-verbal cues as well. They can be time consuming, and they often come at high cost, and really this kind of stuff needs to be done, I would probably recommend, by a professional researcher who's trained in interviewing skills, making sure they're not putting words into the respondent's mouth, so to speak, and is really picking up all those different clues. Focus groups, most of you probably will have heard of, when you get a group of people together to discuss a topic. Great for seeing how people bounce ideas and opinions off each other, and great for testing different concepts, visual concepts, food, whatever it might be, for them. Great, so fantastic way to understand, and a really lively sort of enthusiastic way to gather research. Just be careful of dominance bias. That's when there's a real loud alpha participant, if you like, who sort of influences what everyone else says. And moderator style bias. So this is when a moderator influences the results as well. So again, you can do these yourselves. Just be aware that people are trained to professionally do this, and make sure that they are not influencing the outcome of the groups at all. Something to bear in mind. And finally, observation and interception, which I think is one of the most powerful ways of really understanding your customers, especially in venue. So this is fly on the wall observation. You can literally sit in venues or wherever the location might be. Watch people, watch how they interact with your venue, with your staff, with your apps, with your menus, food, in the actual setting themselves. A very powerful thing to do after this is also then what we call intercept. So you then can approach the person and see if they're happy to answer some questions as well. And you can reward them as you see fit. Great for understanding specific opportunities and really picking up on things you may never, ever have thought about before at every single point in the customer journey in the venue. So there's some 4 real basic techniques, some of which you can do yourself, some of which you might require professional help from. And this is what I put: how can I conduct research for my customers now in lockdown, essentially? Well, there are ways you can start talking to them, as well as the data that you've got access to. This is ways you can generate more feedback. Many CRMs have the ability to send in built surveys. If yours doesn't, then you can create surveys on tools like SurveyMonkey, and then send the link out to your customers, ask them what they're thinking, ask them what they're feeling. Via social platforms, obviously, as well, asking questions directly, or again, sending links out to survey and asking them to respond. How about inviting your top customers to a Zoom focus group to test plans and concepts? You know, you can reward them in different ways, a pre-opening VIP, session, or gift cards or what have you, but really start to connect with your top customers and make sure they're involved in this planning process, if you like. Make sure you're getting it right for them. And then critical, which lots of people forget to do, absolutely invaluable source of knowledge for you when it comes to customer. This is your front of house team. They're the ones that have spent the most time with your customers, without a shadow of a doubt. They also generally know the operational side of things. So they're really an untapped resource in many businesses. Ask them what they think your customers will think about X, Y, Z. They're a direct line to your customers. You can do the research in-house, and now you may have to at this stage. Remember, you're more likely to get biased responses, and if you keep asking the same questions, doing the same things, you may not get the response, the insights, the information, knowledge that you really, really need to drive your business forward. Give KAM a call. We're happy to advise and chat you through it and support you if needed. This is pretty much the final thing. So we've talked about customer understanding now. How about the need to understand your competitors as well? So I put there, keep your enemies close. Don't forget your competitor analysis. Again, things will have changed, will be changing greatly over the next 6 to 12 months plus. Who else is fighting for and winning your customers' attention, loyalty, and spend? What do you need to find out about them? You need to make a list of your competitors. Again, that may have changed. Check out their website, stay close to industry news, follow them on social, their leaders, and their actual accounts as well. Visit their venues, obviously, when you can. Make reservations, order a delivery, use their apps, go at different times of day. Understand every part of that customer journey. What your customers may be experiencing when they visit them. I could put there, don't forget takeaway and delivery, possibly a bigger competitor now as well. Keep an eye on them. And then what do you do with this knowledge? Well, I would suggest a SWOT analysis is great to have on each of your customers. So find out about their campaigns, their in-venue experience, as I said, content, PR, social media presence, menu, pricing structure, etc., etc. and think what that means in terms of their strengths but compared to you, their weaknesses compared to you. And from that, it should be fairly simple to pull out some opportunities and potentially some threats as well that you need to be aware of. I want to point out here, there's a great resource for comparing marketing success versus your competitors. And this is the DataHawks Marketing Performance Tracker. It just captures, or you enter some of your marketing KPIs and you get to see them back versus a competitor set. So really, really important information to know not only how you're doing, but how do you know what how do you know that is good unless you know how it compares to your competitors, the other places your customers are going. Whew. Okay, so understanding your customers should not be a one-off event. The world has changed, is changing. Who knows what this is going to look like? A presentation like this would look like in 2 months' time, 6, 12, 18. So keep an eye on it. This shouldn't be a one-off event just because you're redoing your marketing communications plan. You need to be measuring this. And as DataHawks will go through, you can do that virtually in real time in many occasions. Why do we need to really keep on top of this going forward? We're in an uncertain economic climate. How much people have to spend and where they're spending it is just going to change and be more fluid over the next few months. The threat of COVID-19 is going to change a lot, hopefully, over the next few months, years. The levels of concern for my health and safety will change in reflection of that and what's happening globally, etc. How comfortable customers are with eating out, etc. And then again, as I've mentioned a few times, this changing hospitality and competitor landscape. It will be at a period of change, turmoil, perhaps out there for a while, and that is why you need to be constantly checking in on where your customers are, what they're doing, what they're thinking, what they're wanting, needing, and what's driving their behavior. So you've done your data analysis, you've done your customer and competitor research. Now what? Well, once you really know your customers and potential new customers, once you know your strengths and weaknesses in their eyes, once you know your competitor landscape, now and only now, I would suggest, are you ready to move on to the next step in building your brand and marketing strategy? So now going forward, you can base your decisions on fact-based customer insights and knowledge rather than guesswork. And that's what we're all about here at KAM. And good luck with that. Here is our information, contact details, check us out. We're doing constant research into macro trends, so to understand your customers on a general level, on the hospitality level, and we also work on a bespoke capacity with many brands to help them better understand their customers and make more impactful, engaging and intelligent decisions about their business. Best of luck. I hope you enjoy the playbook. And we hope to see you out there for a beer very soon.